Hey everybody, welcome to my shop. On this video series, we're going to build something, but a little bit different. Not out of wood, we're going to build a game. Last year, I had teased the idea of doing a video series about a game design, sort of a live vlog of going through the process of designing a game, and that never happened. I ended up working on that game kind of in secret. I didn't really write about it. I wasn't in a good space to do that, and I really it didn't feel good. I like sharing. I like communicating with the people that are interested in what I'm doing. There's going to be a series of these as I go through the process of designing this game and printing it. But before I jump straight into that series, I wanted to give you a little bit of a preview of what's coming. This video is going to serve as a bit of an introduction to the series, but also I've got a couple of tips to give you. And the number one thing I'm going to cover is rapid prototyping. Rapid prototyping is something I've written a lot about and given tons of advice about to new designers over the years. And I really want to illustrate to you how important that is in this short little video. At Gen Con 2014, which was last year, I gave away a free game. I printed 100 copies of a game called Me Booty, and I handed it out to the first 100 people that asked me for it. That was the rules. You had to ask. And I had a blast doing that. I got to meet 100 new fans. I got to connect with people that probably would have never sought me out otherwise. And I've seen a lot of great feedback about that game. And I had made a pledge to myself I wanted to do it every year. I want to give a game away. I want to give back because I really enjoy that. The number one question that interviewers ask designers is, what comes first, the theme or the game? I can't answer that question honestly. For me, it's the inspiration, and whatever that inspiration is what it is. The idea for this game came long before I had the name in my head. I had a concept of, what if I could design a set avoidance game? So we designed set collection games where you need to get 3 apples and 3 grapes or whatever it is, depending upon the theme. What if there was an idea of trying not to get sets? So trying to give away sets and trying to give them to your opponents, right? So if I set you up with a set, then that impacts you negatively, and vice versa. So I had that trickle of a thought in my head for about a half a day, and I thought at some point during that day, I like hats, and I don't really have 2 of the same hat. I don't know why I would ever buy a second version of the same hat. So I could kind of, my first free game was about pirates. So what if I made my next free game about, my other love is hats. So I could have a hat collecting game where you don't want sets, you just want one of each style of hat. So you have a summer hat and a winter hat, or a special occasion hat, or whatever. And that was a neat idea, but that was all I had. So throughout the day, I kind of worked on some naming ideas. Happy Haberdasher was. If you go into my computer and look at the file folder for this game, that's what it's called. That was what it was going to be called, Happy Haberdasher. So I had a couple of ideas for names, like Hats Off, Happy Haberdasher. And that led me down this train of thought of thinking about hats and collecting sets. But I really didn't have a mechanic other than that. I had told myself I needed to do this game cheaper than I did last year because it cost me a lot of personal money that I didn't really have to give away. So this year I wanted to have the design restriction of only using 36 cards and a small tuck box and a rule sheet. So a 36 card restriction probably limits us to a 4-player game. I haven't really ventured farther than that. So I was laying down in bed that night, and I was trying to go to sleep. And that's when it hit. So did the theme come first? Maybe. In this case, you could probably guess yes, but at the same time, the mechanic came first. Because I had the idea of set avoidance, which I hadn't seen before. So I'm laying down, I have an idea, I grab my tablet, I wake up, this is the first thing. This is Google Keep, which is a really great, it's like basically a sticky note program, right? You can see all my little notes here and different colors and whatever. And so I grabbed Google Keep, I opened up a note, and I started typing. And I actually posted it on Twitter like immediately thereafter. I knew suddenly it was going to be 36 cards. We had 8 different types of hats, be fedoras and top hats and bowlers. And, so I wrote down, you get dealt 3 cards, and on your turn, you can play or pass. And if everyone passes, the hand ends, and then we total up our scores. If you decide to play, you draw 2 cards. You must discard one and may play the other. So the idea was going to be I could discard a card. I had to discard a card, so one of these cards that I don't get to keep. The other one I can choose to keep in my hand for myself, or I can give it to an opponent. That was the idea there. And if I give it to you, to an opponent, I give it to them face up. So the hand end, once the deck runs out, we total up our scores. And this is where I started to have questions. Do we score negative points for having multiples? Or do we score positive points and the lowest point score wins, like golf or hearts? Or do we score positive points for having singles and not scoring for sets? Or I don't. So I didn't really take any notes about that at night. I just went to sleep on it. But I did write down that you'd have a negative or a bonus if you got all 4 of a type. So shooting the moon, as somebody put it on Twitter, if you were able to collect the full set, have a monopoly in that set type, then you would get bonus points. Why, as a hat collector, we'll talk about that in a second. You play until a person scores X number of points, and then that's pretty much the game. So I wrote down, different types of hats, fedoras and top hats and bowlers and all that sort of stuff. Took some notes and tried to sleep, and I had a really hard time sleeping because, of course, the game's running through my head. So this is where rapid prototyping is vital to this process. I knew I would have 8 types of hats, and I had assumed the cards would just be that. It would be a card with a hat type on it. That's it. I knew I had slots for 4 special cards, and I had no idea what those special cards were going to be. So what do? Well, I can recreate that deck with just simple poker cards. So the next day, before I went to work, I woke up, I came downstairs, I grabbed a stash of poker cards. These are like $1 or less decks, like 50-cent decks from Walmart. You can buy them in like 3-packs or 4-packs, I think. And I just grabbed out, 4 10s, 4 6s, 4 jack, whatever. I just grabbed out 4 of a kind and then 4 different jokers. It's the nice thing about these cheap decks, there's 4 different style of jokers. And I shuffled them all together. I put them in a baggie. I stuck it in my pocket. And I carried it to work with me that day. And at lunchtime, I sat around and I thought about the game some. What I was able to do, and what you're able to do when you're rapid prototyping like this, I pulled this deck out. Yes, the jokers are shuffled in. The jokers are my 4 special cards, by the way. I still don't have any clue what these cards do. Doesn't matter, right? So I shuffle them up. I deal my 3 cards. I give you 3 cards, and I deal 3 cards to this guy, and I look at my cards, and I draw my 2, and I choose to discard this one, and do I want to play that one? And that's when I go, hold on. Why would I give this to you if I'm maybe end up giving you a point, right? So let's go back to the scoring. I had 2 different scoring options. One was you scored for having singles, and the other one was you scored for having multiples. So in scoring for having singles, the most points wins. Scoring for having multiples, lowest score wins. So if we're playing this, and I got these cards to deal with, I've got a pair of 5s, an 8, and a 3, okay? So if we're playing to get the lowest score, I don't want to get these 5s. No, I just don't want to. So for the lowest score, it would make sense for me to give that 5 to somebody else. So I give my opponent a 5. Now maybe he, he has another 5, and I just stuck him with a point. Okay? And I know he doesn't have all 4 because I still have one. So cool. So we'll continue on this vein, right? So now it's dude's turn. Look what he has, a 5. That's cute. He draws his 2. Okay, he has a joker in his hand. I don't have a clue what that card does, and right now I don't care. We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out as we go. That does not matter to me. But what I see is, I have a 5 in my hand. I have a 5 on the table. That's bad. And I just got 2 7s. Now what am I going to do? There's a 7 on top of the draw pile. So I can't get all 4 of them. So I have to get rid of both of these pairs right now, right? So I can discard this 5. Everybody knows I have one, so I'll chuck it. That means that I'm safe there. And let's give an opponent a 7, okay? Now here's the tricky part. I'll give it to myself, or whatever. So this is the part where I go, if I'm not scoring for my low cards, why would I ever keep a card? It just doesn't make any sense. I'm going to always give cards. Unless I'm trying to shoot the moon. Makes sense, right? Which is probably never going to happen because of the way you just saw. I saw that it was safe to discard this 7 to an opponent because he can't shoot the moon. I knew I had another 5, so I can discard a 5, knowing that nobody else can shoot the moon with those. Okay, so now let's flip swap. Flip swap. Cool, I just made that up. Now let's flip the table, though, and go, all right, now we're scoring 4 singles. And we're losing points for having more than 1. So in that scenario, why would I ever give my opponent a card? Because I might be accidentally giving him a point. And I don't want to do that. I only want to give him cards if I know that I'm going to stick him with negatives. Or if I have a reasonable assumption that I'm going to stick him with negatives. And why would I ever keep it for myself if I'm just sending a flag that says, hey, I've got a 7, you should give me a 7. Because the chance of me shooting the moon, I'm not faking anybody out here. They can look at their hand and go, yeah, I've got a 7, so I know I can give him 1 and he's stuck with points that he doesn't want. So right off the bat, without writing out rules, without thinking this through any more than I have to, with just some simple poker cards, like I said, I don't care what the jokers do yet. Right now they're just taking up space in the deck. I already see a flaw in my scoring system. The game mechanic of draw 2, discard 1, play 1 seems to work okay. That's just standard card play, right? I have a hand of cards. I'm going to draw a couple of cards. So I have some hidden known information. I'm going to draw some hidden now known information, which is going to allow me to manipulate my hand so that my opponents have less of an idea of what's going on here. I'm allowed to put some known information into play by playing on them and discarding it. So that all functions. That's a functional game. Is it good? No. Not yet. And that's where the magic of this series will happen. As I sit and figure out how this works together with you, we might be able to come up with something pretty tricky. Right now, it's functional. I could sit down and design these cards. I could print it and hand it to you and say, play this game, and you could play it. And would you play it again? I don't know. Maybe. Some people might like it. Would I play it again? Probably not. And I want to play it again. And I can't, because I have my prototype in my pocket. From hour 1, I was able to play this game. It didn't take me days. I didn't agonize about designing the Joker cards. I don't care. I'll figure those out. I have notes. I have ideas now. So as we go through this series, I'll let you see how I develop all of this stuff out. I just wanted to get this out of the way. Rapid prototyping is one of the most important tools that you'll ever have in game design. Use it. If you haven't read my Idea Box article, go to my website right now, read the Idea Box article, and go make yours. It will transform your game design. I hope you'll stick with me for the rest of the series. Madder Than a Hatter will be the name of the game, and you'll understand why, hopefully, shortly. Thanks.